Hi everyone, I'm Kira Carbonell, and today I'm going to be talking about my chosen fossil species, the Archaeopteryx lithographica. So in this presentation, we're going to start off by a quick introduction of the species as well as its taxonomy. Then we're going to go into the derivation of its name and as well as where it was found. After that, we're going to talk a little bit more in depth about the species itself, its ecological and biological information, its habitat, and some key synapomorphies. After that, we're going to talk about why it's so important in evolution and what key transition it represents. And then lastly, we're just going to go over some fun facts that I found when I was researching this species. So Archaeopteryx lithographica is an extinct species that's believed to be one of the oldest known birds. Its fossil was first found in Germany in the Solnhofen limestone quarries back in 1861, so it's been quite a while since we've originally found it. However, since then there have been many debates on whether this species is a true bird or a dinosaur, but modern research shows that it was a bird-like dinosaur and therefore a key transitional species when looking at the evolution between birds and dinosaurs. Its taxonomy is Kingdom Animalia, Phylum Chordata, Clade Dinosauria, Order Saurischia, Suborder Theropoda, Infraorder Paraves, Family Archaeopterygidae, Genus Archaeopteryx, and species Archaeopteryx lithographica. So now we're going to talk a little bit about what the name actually means. Many scientific names have meanings, and Archaeopteryx lithographica is Greek. Its genus Archaeopteryx means ancient wing, and the species name lithographica in Greek means the use of limestone matrix. So the name in Greek basically means what it is because it's a winged species that was in the limestone quarries. So like we mentioned earlier, Archaeopteryx was found in the limestone quarries of Solnhofen, Germany back in 1861, and the first fossil that they found was actually just a singular feather, which was really cool. However, after more exploration of the same place, a full skeleton of Archaeopteryx lithographica was discovered. When starting to find out the exact origin of birds, Archaeopteryx was a good place to start looking. However, through looking at its anatomy, it was discovered that they have characteristics of both dinosaurs and birds, and it places it as a really good intermediate on the phylogenetic tree. Its closest known relative on the tree are dromaeosaurids or the raptor dinosaurs, and these dinosaurs, they ranged in size, so they could be really big or small. They had S-shaped necks and shorter trunks. So now we're going to go in a little bit more depth about the species. Like we mentioned before, Archaeopteryx had features of both dinosaurs and birds. So like birds, they had feathers, but unlike birds, they had teeth and a bony tail. And more evidence from newer research shows that they're not true birds because they have bones such as shoulder girdle, pelvis, and hand bones that are all distinct and not fused. So in modern birds, you would normally see those bones more fused than what they would have been back in dinosaurs. So based on the fossils that we found, we've been able to figure out a lot more information about the species than you would think. Their size were typically small, similar to a chicken, like 0.5 meters long. They had a carnivorous diet, and they lived in the Jurassic time period, more towards the end. Their distribution isn't fully known, however, the fossils have only ever been found in Germany, so that's the only answer we have right now. Their habitat, however, we have a better idea of just because their fossils have been found in parts of Germany that we know were lagoons and subtropical islands during the period that they existed. Their color also isn't fully known. There's still a question around it. However, there was a study where they used a scanning technology of the single feather, and they determined that that feather specifically was black. Archaeopteryx grew much slower than modern birds. It has long bones that contain parallel bone fibers, which is a characteristic of slow-growing tissues, suggesting that they lived a life with lower metabolism than modern birds. and their reproduction was that they laid eggs. However, they built their nests in trees just like modern birds, not on the ground like dinosaurs. So, pretty interesting information about different characteristics that they had from both birds and dinosaurs. So, since Archaeopteryx lithographica are a transitional species, they have synapomorphies with both birds and dinosaurs. So, from the birds, they have feathers, a furcula, and wings. And from dinosaurs, they have a three-fingered mantis with clawed fingers. They have the teeth in the jaws, which is a symplesiomorphy. They have a long bony tail, which we talked about earlier, and they also have this backward-facing pubis. So, like we've mentioned throughout this whole presentation, Archaeopteryx is a very important species and fossil to look at when you're thinking about evolution. It's a key transitional species that provides this missing link between modern birds and dinosaurs, and it also provided crucial evidence to Darwin's theory of evolution, showing that this fossil had both bird and dinosaur characteristics and that birds did evolve from dinosaurs, because back when Darwin first came out with this theory of evolution was only a couple years before the Archaeopteryx fossils were found, and many people did not believe Darwin's theory of evolution at all. But when this fossil came out, more and more people started to believe it because it was true evidence of this theory of evolution. All living birds are descendants of the Archaeopteryx, and the Archaeopteryx are extinct. However, they did not go extinct in a single event like many of the other dinosaurs. It is believed that they eventually were replaced by birds. So lastly, just a fun fact about Archaeopteryx lithographica. We know that it's one of the oldest known birds. However, we have some newer information that show it might not have been able to sustain a long powered flight, maybe just some shorter bursts of powered flight, because they lacked this fully developed bony mechanism needed for the M. suprachoroidis muscle, which basically helps birds propel upward. So that's not saying that they couldn't fly. It just wasn't fully developed, so they might have not been able to do as long of flights as modern birds now. And this is really interesting when looking at how birds evolve, because, like we said, they are the oldest known birds that we know of, and this is them starting to fly, and they have this bony mechanism, but it's not fully developed. So it further enhances why they're a key transitional species to look at when you're looking at the evolution between dinosaurs and birds and how we got from non-flying to flying.